what is maybe something else that we say that we should change?
So a really common phrase that I have overheard over the years, and it's so frustrating. And every time I hear it again, it kind of takes my breath away. Anytime somebody makes a statement about a family or an entire population of families and says a statement like, "Those families are not involved," that one makes my blood boil.
People still say that, those people?
Yes, those, yeah. Not even the families, but those families.
Yes.
Like, I am physically going to put distance between myself and that group of families. It kind of just, it stops your heart a little bit. But it's interesting, like when you unpack the term parental involvement, and I always put air quotes because I have issues with the word involvement.
Sure.
I prefer, instead of parental involvement, I prefer family engagement. Engagement, you think of an engagement ring. An engagement ring, there's a relationship. It goes, it's a circle.
It's the difference between the, parental involvement is doing to and parental engagement is doing with.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Yes. And it's interesting, like as I talk to educators in different workshops and things, we always, like, I'll say, like, how would you define, parent involvement? And many times people will say, like, well, if the parents are on PTA or if the parents come to the parent teacher conference. And I'm like, wait, but are we really making entire judgments about families based on those two events? Like, oh, that's alarming, because many times those events are based on privilege.
Yeah.
Like, we are assuming a lot when we talk about, like, the PTA, for example. We are assuming that the family has, number one, transportation, for example, transportation to the school for the meeting. Number one, were they invited to the meeting? Like, truly, were they invited? Because many times it's through email in English only. And we're, families who have Wi-Fi, who have a device, who have English literacy skills. And again, then also have the availability. And then we're saying, oh, they're not on the PTA, they're not involved. Or same thing with parent-teacher conferences. Oh, well, they didn't come to that, they're not involved. Like, maybe they didn't have childcare, or maybe, there's a whole lot of reasons. But if we make just that entire blanket, statement about the family or an entire group of family, then it illuminates again that problematic bias that maybe has gone unchecked.
Here's my thing with that conversation, and I'm not glorifying the whole saying labeling an entire population or entire group of people, but what I am saying is maybe we should consider, well, why is that entire group of people not attending these events that we're talking about? Is there something that we could be doing? See, we often put the blame on the community members, the stakeholders. The school never does anything wrong. And it's like, okay, if you're telling me a whole neighborhood or a whole community is not showing up to this event, or they're not showing up to anything, why is that the case?
Yes, exactly. And what kind of messaging are we communicating to various groups of families? Again, it puts that responsibility back on us. Like, we need to do, as a school, we need to do that inner reflection and have that dialogue and make ourselves uncomfortable and say, wow, we're missing the mark here. Like, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. You can't put it on. If I always used to tell teachers, like, okay, you had the majority of your class, they failed the test. So maybe there's something that we need to think about as far as our teaching approach, because if it's the majority of our class, that's got to be something that we need to reconsider. So I feel the same way. I feel like sometimes we put blame on our families and not consider, well, what are some things that we could do? I was a victim of this as well. Like, when as a special ed person, I used to do IEPs, and I planned the meetings right in the middle of the day because it was convenient for me. I was at school, right? I'm at work, so just come on over when I'm at work. But when you start doing them in the evenings, when you start doing them early mornings, and try to do it in like lunchtime when they can come on breaks, as opposed to when it's, I don't have any meetings between 1 and 3 right now, I'm open, why don't I schedule it for them this time, as opposed to really thinking about, well, what would work best for this parent who I'm supposed to be serving? What will work best for them in this scenario, as opposed to doing what's best for me?
Yes, absolutely. You know, and we often talk about something like that. We call it the affective filter with our students. Like they have, like all of us have these invisible walls around us. And when we're stressed or nervous or uncomfortable or anxious, the wall goes up and no new learning can pass, right?
Mhm.
But all of us adults, we have it too. The families that we serve, they have it too. And, you know, like when we send out like those flyers for, you know, we're having a math night or we're having a
Yeah.
literacy night, and we notice like maybe this group of families is not coming, and again, like you said, we need to unpack why. Let's like really be strategic and mindful of how we're inviting families. I started to get really real with some of my moms over the years, and like I would ask them for feedback, like how am I doing, how's my communication, and they gave me such good information, such good feedback. And they one family said, and again, I had families from all over the world, one of the moms said to me, you know what, Mrs. Spina, I had no idea even like what to wear to this event. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I wouldn't have even thought of that. And so then as I started to kind of think like through parent teacher conferences, like here, what to do if you're late, you know, text me at this number because I can't answer my phone because I'm in other meetings. Text me at this number. Here's, I'm going to wear jeans. I would invite you to dress down. If you need to bring in your other children, please bring them in. I'll have water for you. And if I had another adult like joining the meeting, like an interventionist or a gifted enrichment teacher or whoever, I would also notify them ahead of time so they don't come in like, you know, like, wait a minute, there's like this team of teachers. I thought it was just going to be you and I. So like I had to get really real about lowering the affective filter for the families. Because I was like, I am creating some uncomfortable situations, and I really don't want to do that. I want my families, when they walk into the building, I want them to be like, this is my place. My child is loved here. My family is affirmed here. We are, you know, we're welcome. We're safe here. Like I want that for all of our families.